Holy cow. I think I'm live. So, welcome everyone. This is another Ask Me Anything about Salesforce, administration, dev, consulting. What I kind of have planned for this one is to go through the setup of using Visual Studio and ForceCode. So this was something that I tried to set up last week, or kind of like briefly show you, and that failed miserably. So this time I thought I would try to do something even worse, and that is like do an end-to-end setup of this. And this is something that I haven't practiced first. So you're going to watch me struggle through all of the typical things that people struggle with getting this set up and running. So I don't know if I'm going to run into issues with like missing versions of .NET or just anything in general. I don't know what's going to happen. So what I have showing right now is a brand new computer. It's actually like a virtual machine. And the only thing I've done is install Chrome on here. So I haven't run like any Windows updates or anything like that. I've also gone and set up a new developer account, Salesforce developer account, and we can use that to connect for ForceCode into. So yeah, let's jump into that. If you guys have questions while we're doing this, just feel free to chime in the chat. I've got that open up on another window here, and I'll try to pay attention to it. And if you're watching this after the live stream, yeah, feel free to ask questions, and I'll definitely respond to those. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to install is Visual Studio Code. So I will just search for it. This is free, so everything I install here is going to be free. And I've got dogs barking and kids throwing stuff around, so there should be lots of fun background noise. So we'll run the install here. It's not meant to be run as an administrator. If you'd like to, I want to do it. I accept. And I'll just use all the defaults. I'll add an icon to the desktop though. And actually, I'm going to take a screen capture right here. And I think I want to try to update this YouTube stream with a different thumbnail. Oh, maybe I don't need to. The thumbnail already kind of shows what we're streaming. Okay, never mind. It says my streaming quality is poor now. So I don't know if it's actually working. I guess we'll see. We'll find out later. Okay, so we have Visual Studio Code installed. So now inside of here, we need to install the Salesforce extensions. So over on the left side here, I am selecting extensions, and it looks like you can do Control-Shift-X in order to get into this as well. But I will just click extensions. And now I'm going to search for the Salesforce extension pack. It's the second one. I do also have to install the Salesforce CLI, but I'll get to that. So this extension pack is going to install other things. So they don't want you to install like this first one on its own. Instead, you install the extension pack, and it will install like 4 or 5 different packages, including that first one. So I'll click install here. And it is installing. So one of the reasons I like to use these tools, even when I'm doing basic administration, it's because it makes my life easier and faster. So a lot of times I'm jumping onto projects where there's already an extensive Salesforce implementation that's already rolled out. People ask me to make changes to it, and before I just start hacking away inside of their org, I kind of like to do an analysis of what's in there. So if like I'm going to change a field, I want to know all the places where those fields are used. And what I typically do is use either Visual Studio Code or maybe Illuminated Cloud to download all of the XML that is the configuration of the org, and then do like a find in files for specific fields. And then that way I can like figure out where everything is used. I know Salesforce has this new button that says, like, if you're on a field, there's a button at the top that says, where's this field used? That shows you a lot of places, but it doesn't show you everything. Like, I think if a field's used in like a report filter, it's not going to show you that. So I think while this is installing, I'll also download the Salesforce CLI. So I'll search for Salesforce SFDX download. Should probably get me there. Okay. I assume I'm on a 64-bit machine, but because it's a virtual, I don't really know. So how do I figure that out in Windows? There's like it's the My Computer. Like computer management, I think that'll tell me. No, this is not what I was thinking of. How do you tell in Windows? Does it tell you in the command prompt? It does not. This is the one I'm thinking of, system settings. Okay, 64-bit. So that means in here I download the 64-bit version. Still thinking. It must be doing some sort of scan on the file. And this one's still installing. Okay, so now we'll run the SFDX. Just take all the defaults. So this week I tried setting up the activity capture. So I have a couple of clients that want to integrate Salesforce with their Outlook setup. And in the past, I would have used the Lightning sync so that the events and the contacts would carry over to their Exchange system. But I recently learned more about this activity capture, and the interesting thing about this is that it'll also bring in email messages automatically. So you no longer really have to pick and choose individual emails and like highlight them and then click that button on the right that would say like attach this to this account or attach it to the opportunity. Instead, Salesforce will reach into your email account and automatically pull the data out and associate it with all those main objects. So I thought that this was a service that only came with Inbox and that you had to pay extra for it, but it looks like just that component is free. So if you have Sales Cloud, you should be able to leverage that. But what I found was that when I tried setting up these two accounts, neither one of the orgs were configured to be able to do it. And I'm not really sure why. I created a case and for one of the orgs, and when I spoke to support, they said that there is a special backend permission that says something like enable activity capture for free. And if you have that backend permission, then you can see the permission set in your org and assign that to users and enable activity capture and go through and set it up. But for this one org, it was weird. Every time we went into the Einstein activity capture settings page and clicked enable, it would just it would toast up a message that says it's enabled, and then it would just show the same screen again to enable it again. It would never show us all the tabs at the top where you can go through the configuration of it. And then for the other org, it just flat out didn't even give us that screen. It said basically just contact your sales rep to purchase it. So that seemed kind of odd. So everything that I've read in the help says that it's included. It doesn't say specifically that it's free, but typically when a product is not free, it'll say it's available for an additional cost or something to that effect. So if I can get this installed on these two orgs, then that'll be cool. And I would like to use that as the go-to for other ones. It's not a one-to-one feature set compared to Lightning Sync. For example, Lightning Sync, I think they added the functionality to support recurring events, and the activity capture doesn't seem to support that. They have a document that kind of shows each of the products and then all the different features and which ones support which. So you can't flat out just say one is better than the other. I guess you have to look at all the features and which one kind of makes more sense for you. The other weird thing about activity capture is that although, yeah, you can see like the email messages in there, it said something like, well, you only see, I think, like up to 2 years of data. And the data, I don't think, is actually stored in your Salesforce org. It's stored like on an AWS server. So I don't think you're able to like pull the data through reports or SQL queries because it's actually stored somewhere else. But I really haven't gotten into some of those details yet. So wow, this is taking a really long time to install all of this. Let's see how loaded this virtual machine is. It is at 100%. But these are only using like 30% of the resources, so what's using the rest? I don't know. Anti-malware. That's what's slowing it down. And this is a virtual machine, but the virtual machine isn't running on my computer. This is actually like a cloud VM. So the bottleneck is not my computer. So if there's anyone watching, feel free to say hi in the chat. I don't see anyone yet though. So for those of you that don't know me, I am a Salesforce partner, a registered partner. I'm sorry, my name is EJ, and I recently quit my job as a Salesforce practice lead for another consulting company. It was New Resources Consulting in Milwaukee. They are an excellent company. I would highly recommend you reaching out to them if you're interested in doing Salesforce consulting. But for me, it wasn't a good fit. I kind of wanted to take my life in a different direction, and that is to focusing on trying to help other people get into Salesforce. So that's kind of why I'm putting an effort towards making these videos and doing these live streams. So basically I just want to try to share so that you can do this stuff too. So I recently started my own consulting company so I can do that, and joined the Salesforce Partner Program. And it's been pretty, getting established in the Partner Program has been kind of difficult. Just going through the logistics, jumping through the hoops. Getting all the paperwork signed and processed was not that big of a deal, but just getting like moved from a provisional account to an actual account was frustrating. So when I first got accepted, I paid the bills, and I associated my certification account through WebAssessor into the to my company account through the partner program. But it seemed like none of those two things registered. They kept saying I don't have the proper certifications to be an actual partner, and I haven't paid the bill when I had done both of those. And I logged support cases, and I just kind of kept getting the runaround. I felt like they would just respond to the case and say, yeah, you haven't paid your bill. And then I'd have to reply and say, I did pay my bill, and then I wouldn't hear anything back for days and days and days. So I'd eventually have to escalate the case, and I escalated again, and finally just today, earlier today, my partner account switched from provisional to like active. So now I'm a full-blown Salesforce partner. So it looks like this one has finished. So I'll close that out. And it looks like the other one is finished too. Cool. Okay, so now we can install we should install the ForceCode. I don't think this one will take nearly as long. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so now I find that if I restart this, then things work a lot better. And actually, let me just confirm that the Salesforce stuff is working. SFDX. Good. Very good. And let me also log into Salesforce. So I can show you the org that we'll be connecting into. Look up my password. Oh geez, wants to send me a code. 62898. Okay, and this is a brand new org here, so nothing has been configured at all. Okay, so let's see if we can get this to go here. I'm not sure the keyboard combinations because of the VM, but I think it's like Control-Shift-P. Okay, so yeah, it was Control-Shift-P, and then that brings up this menu. And then I typed in force, and then I can get to the ForceCode create project. So I wonder if there's like a way to get that through clicking. This one, command palette. And then you type in ForceCode, create project. And now it's going to say, okay, where do you want to create it? So I typically, like, because I work in a lot of different orgs, I usually create a folder for each org that I'm going to be in. So this one's going to be ForceCode demo. I'm sorry, I need to create a folder. New folder. ForceCode demo. So I think I don't want to end up with nested folders here. So I think I just back up, I highlight that. So now that the folder name says it there, now I create the project. And now it should ask us how to connect to Salesforce. So with this tool, I always like to look at the bottom here and I can kind of see what it's doing. So it's executing a task, and now I see at the top here, it's asking, okay, how do you want to connect? And this is where, if you've already done this before, you'd see your existing orgs in the list and you could just select it. But for this one, I'm going to select new org. And now For a developer account, it's going to be the first one. It's just like production. And do I want to automatically deploy it every time I save a file? I don't like to do this, but you know, maybe you do. So if you do like Control S and you save your file, do you want it to automatically push it to Salesforce? Or do you want to have to always manually tell it, okay, I want to push whatever I've saved? So I'm going to say no, because I prefer to push it. And now it should pop up a login. Great. Now I think I still have my password in the clipboard. And I want to give it access. Cool. See, now it's starting to load here. So that guy is connected. Now, I've also had better luck if I restart here, because I notice in this bottom left corner, it doesn't show me the org that it's connected to. So what I'm going to do is close it. I'm just going to close the folder. And then I'm going to reopen it. And this is the folder I want. And I find that this is very slow to load, but basically I'm just looking at the bottom here and waiting for stuff to start showing up. Like I should see the ForceCode menu thing, but I'm not seeing it. Is it still going? I think it's, yeah, it's still thinking. See, all these things on the left here aren't loaded yet either. Oh, see, now I can see the org that I'm connected to. ForceCode is still loading. Oh, this Java home thing. I think I need to fix as well. I think that needs to be fixed for the CLI to work better. But I think most of the ForceCode stuff will still work. Okay, so it's done loading. So I have no files in the source folder right now. And I can just open up this and kind of show you too. I mean, it's going to be the same as the structure, but I think this is a little bit more obvious. So there's no files under source. So now I'll go through and pull down the configuration. So I click on this menu and all these come up. So I could, like if I'm just doing coding, I could just tell it to download the Apex code. But what I want to try to do is pull down everything. So first you're supposed to be able to tell it to just pull everything. So this is going to be retrieve package / metadata. We'll try that first and we'll see if it works. So you can see what I go through here. So get all files from the org. That's what I want to do. This could work because this is a pretty clean org. And other orgs, I get an error that says it can't download more than 10,000 files at a time. So we'll see if this one works. So I can see it's still executing a task. If I click on it, I can see here it's retrieving the package. Now it's finished. And now I've got a bunch of stuff here. So I can see my account object. So now if I go into Studio and click on Explore, Objects. I can now open up the account object. And now this is all of the XML for account. Get all the fields and everything. Now, if you're in a big org, the way that you work around that error that says it can't download more than 10,000 files at a time is when you do this retrieve, when you do retrieve, you can tell it to retrieve by package.xml. The trick is building that package XML first. And the way you do that is you just go to that different option that was right above it to build a package file. This one here, build a package file. So in here, I just select everything. And then I click OK. Now it's going to ask me where to save it. And I'm going to save it right in the source folder. And I'm going to call it package.xml, not CML. So we can look at that file that it just created. Right here. So it basically just went through all of the different categories and just says I'm going to download it all. And now when you do the retrieve, you select retrieve by package XML and it just will automatically select that file because it's in the right spot. Oh, it doesn't like because there's no dashboard elements. So I don't know if it actually ran or not. You can get information about the errors if you go to the, there should be like an output window. Output. And then here you can select ForceCode. So I don't know, maybe we shouldn't have selected dashboards, then this would probably work fine. So yeah, so that's it. That is kind of why I use this tool. Maybe I could show you, like I'll add something now to Salesforce and we can see it come down. In code, and then maybe we'll make a change and then we'll push that back up to Salesforce. See if that works. I got an error. I was trying to push stuff into a production org using these tools, and I was getting errors saying that that it couldn't deploy to production. So I'm very curious to see if this works. So I will create a new object. We'll call it printer. In a lot of my demos, I like to create like the 3D printer manager app. Tracking for 3D printers. Turn on all that good stuff. Sure, we'll create a tab too. Oh, which icon should we pick? I don't know, is there a printer icon? I don't see one. How about a square? It could be the base of the 3D printer. Okay, so we have this. And let's add a new field, and we'll just put like the cost of the printer. Make it a currency. Let's make it visible to all. Okay, so now we should have printers. Sure. And let's just create a record. We'll call this, I don't have any fancy names, printer 1 for $2.99. Okay. So now in here, you can actually, I think you can do SOCL queries inside of here too. Yeah. So I can select ID name from printer. Silly. It's a custom object. Okay, so we get data back. So now let's try to pull down the config so that we see that object in our list. Retrieve package. And we'll just get it all. Says it's executing. Now we have the object. So now let's try to change something on the field. Like let's change the label to be cost of printer. It's a pretty lame name, but whatever. So we'll save. And now to push it, you right click and save, compile, deploy. Yeah, so it worked. So now if I go back into Salesforce and refresh, cost of printer. So, I mean, if you need to make like a lot of changes, like system-wide, like maybe someone just gives you a spreadsheet that says, hey, make all of these labels for these fields, you know, different. You could just come into this XML and change it very quickly and then push it instead of having to actually drill down in the UI to change it all. It's just a way to speed things up. So usually one of the concerns people have is, well, what if someone else had changed this and now I take this XML file and I push it over it and lose their changes? I think this ForceCode has a way to actually detect something like that. So let's go ahead and try it. I've done this a lot with like Apex code, but I haven't tried it with like a field label. So we will edit the object. Oh yeah, that's good. And let's change the, let's change this to the word price. Okay. So now if I refresh, price. So now here, if I say something like, let's say total cost. Oops. I don't know how to undo on this keyboard. Okay. So now we'll save it. And now when we push, I think it's going to give us an error. Get rid of this word too. Save. Okay, so now we'll push, save, deploy, compile. Yeah, so this did not warn us at all. So that is the danger. Total cost. So that's the danger of doing this. I know when I've done this with Apex code, it will warn you and it will say someone else has modified it. So I don't know, maybe it only does it for certain files. You are also able to do that compare. I don't see it in the list though. Let's see if I do. Oh, I need the I thought there was one that said compare. Maybe that's why it doesn't work with this type of file. Maybe it needs to be, maybe it needs to be Apex. Let's try it. So let's create some Apex code. And we'll create a new class. We'll call it good old EJ test. And we will save it. And now we will pull down the Apex code. There we go. See, this gives you more options. So this is the diff that I was thinking of. So let's save this. How do I save on this keyboard? There we go. Control S. And now we'll deploy it. And then we'll see it change by reopening it. Okay. And now we'll add another line and save it. Saved. Now we'll add some other line and save it. And now we'll deploy in this one. Aha, see, now we get an error. Someone else has changed the file. So I wonder what the list is of things that you will just get overwritten and what will compare it. I think you can probably just tell when you right click in here, if you get this diff local and remote, then I think you're going to be protected. So I can go ahead and click this and we'll see, yeah, there's differences here and you can resolve that conflict. I typically just pull down the version from the server and then make my change again, but there might be ways to actually merge the two together. I don't know. I haven't bothered with it. So I think it's a tool worth having in the tool belt. You can also, I guess I've used it to run anonymous Apex. So for example, I could just start writing some code here for that project object. Like maybe I want to create like maybe I want to do a sockle, and so I'll create a printer variable. I'll set it equal to a select statement from, well, it should say printer. From printer and limit 1. And then you can highlight the code and then you can run that execute anonymous, and it's gonna execute what's ever highlighted, and then it'll give you the output, I think on the right here. Is it just slow? Thought it said it ran it. Still says executing one task. Where did the output go? Executes it and then it goes away. Maybe because there's nothing to output. What if you do like a system debug printer.id, or even better, the name. There we go. Yeah, because it just didn't have any output. So that's kind of handy. I mean, I don't think it's as nice as Illuminated Cloud, but given that this is free, it's pretty handy. Being able to do your sockle statements in here. I noticed it had that save, but I've never actually used it. Oops. So let's see what that looks like. I already have it in here. So if I execute it, save results. Oh, so it saves it as a CSV. Pretty cool. I don't think you can actually edit stuff in here though. Holy cow, can you? Holy cow, you can. Oh, that's nice. That's pretty cool. Go in here. Printer 2. Very nice. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. So I think I'll leave it at that. If you have other tools like this that you'd like to see me go through, let me know and I can prioritize that. Otherwise, the plan for next week, I think I need to move this live stream from Wednesday night to Thursday nights. So I'll figure that out well before Wednesday. But thanks a lot for watching. If you found this helpful, please like the video, yada, yada, yada. Have fun.